Hello and welcome to another Miniatures Monday with That Welsh Nerd. And today things are turning a little bit chaotic on this channel and we're looking at the Chaos Space Marine Codex. This is a close to initial review. I bought this for myself and thought I would review it and let you know what I'm going to be doing with it. So this is going to be very similar to my Space Marine Codex, as much as it does seem a Primaris Marine Codex. Initial review where I'm going to be taking a quick look at it, the index, etc. and just talking through some immediate changes that jump out to me. All I've really done off camera is taken the cellophane off this. I bought this recently. So, go on the page, more double page artwork. This is starting to become a staple of Games Workshop at this point with their hardcover rulebooks, and I like it. I like the art they're going with. And if we're right, once you get past the content and the index page, there should be a full colour version of this. And this just looks amazing, and it's great to see the art is still keeping up, well, with their standard, as well as including newer factions. For example, this is Chaos Space Marines versus Tempestus Scions and Blood Angels, it looks like. So again, it's just something a bit different to just change it up from the usual. So, with the standard, we have the history section, Let the Galaxy Burn, Horus Heresy, just talking us through the events and discussing the differences between the Traitor Legions and Chaos Renegades, primarily being the Traitor Legions are the original Fallen Legions from the Horus Heresy, just in case you're one of the 4 people playing Warhammer who doesn't know that, and the Chaos Renegades are Space Marine chapters that have fallen to Chaos since then. Functionally, they usually play pretty much identically, with different Warlord traits being available depending on Legions or if you're going purely Renegade Force. Then we've got just the standard timeline discussing what's happened since the Age of Betrayal right up to the Great Rift. Discussion of what a Black Crusade is and what's happened in them. And then we're going to break down the individual legions. So the first one we're looking at is the Arch-Traitors themselves, the Black Legion. Similar to discussing chapters in the Space Marine book, they talk through some background and give some schemes, etc., different sections of them, as the Black Legion is Chaos Undivided. They do have different guys representing different gods with them. They've got Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle and Slaanesh. And it's just basically telling you what these are and how they differ because they're in the Black Legion. We've got a Galaxy Divided, a map similar to what you'll essentially see in every codex, and index, well not the index, sorry, but the main rulebook. And it's just breaking down where everything is on the galactic scale. However, this one focuses more on the Chaos, obviously, where it breaks down different Chaos strongholds or demon worlds, demonic incursion, warp storms, or just flat-out planets. So we've got more history then, and this looks to be specific to Black Legion because it's discussing Abaddon. There's a lot of this. And then we're on to the Alpha Legion, if they even exist. So we've got a breakdown of what they would do if the Alpha Legion did exist, as well as a very short history because, of course, as everyone knows, the Alpha Legion doesn't actually exist, so there can't be any history about it. Or they're everyone, so everyone's history is about them. We have the pre-heresy paint scheme, and then we've got how it differs, as well as just different units amongst the force, with a close combat marine, a chosen, and then a shooty marine. Next onto the Iron Warriors, and again it's just discussing their history, giving some artwork, and showing off the different styles of them. Again, showing a pre-heresy scheme, then moving on. Night Lords, fittingly on a dark page, because Night Lords, they're basically Space Batman. And we go through, again, some overview, history, some discussing of the different parts of them, which is interesting. And then, of course, as it's starting to become standard, if you couldn't tell, a little paint scheme with a pre-heresy, then how they've changed over time, showing some raptors. It's very cool lightning bolt design there. It looks really difficult to paint, but looks amazing on the field. We've got the word bearers, not the world bearers, the word bearers. These are the original Chaos Legion, if you could call them that, before even the Black Legion. As it was Erebus who started the whole heresy after all. So we've got some overview, nice piece of artwork with a Dark Apostle. History, laid out as per usual. And then, as per usual, we've got the pre-heresy and different forces. So we've got their Standard Marine, a more specialist, I think this is a Havoc, and then a Possessed. Now onto the World Eaters. This is going to be my legion. I love the World Eaters, and spoilers, this is what I'm going to be doing for a little chaotic project, so keep an eye out for that on this channel. So we've got an overview of the World Eaters, some awesome artwork, some history of them, some famous battles, what's happened. Right, my personal favourite when I read this one earlier was the Gladius and Anatheme. And that was where the Dark Eldar witch cult and a World Eaters sect were duking it out under a demon prince. And basically even Khorne liked it so much that it rained blood and brought everyone back to life so they could continue fighting for his pleasure. Which is just cool. Fittingly then, we've got their pre-heresy and post-heresy. As you can see, they're very different. We've also got a slightly different scheme using different coloured helmets, which is interesting. And then we've got a Possessed. It specifically says World Eater ones get possessed by bloodletters, if you couldn't guess already. Emperor's Children, a bit of classic artwork, but this is one of those classic pieces that will be timeless in my opinion. Overview, history, pre-heresy, different forces, and a Noise Marine. Now we've got some different renegades and tyrants. We've got the Scourge, the Flawless Host, Blood Disciples, the Company of Misery, the Crimson Slaughter, notable in last edition to have their own expansion, which was better than the base Codex. Red Corsairs, another big famous one. They have their own named character. I'm surprised they didn't have a page dedicated to them to represent the standard renegades. The Cleaved and the Purge. And then it looks like we've got some slightly more god-specific ones here, because we've got the Brazen Beasts, which are your Khorne Berserk, which are your Khorne ones. We've got the Sons of Vengeance, Invocators, the Hedon Starry. If you couldn't tell, they were Slanesh. They've got hedonism in their name. The Corpus Brethren, the Magma Hounds, the Grey Death, and the Deathmongers. And interestingly enough, these little histories gives a little bit about them, as well as talking where they came from. For example, the Magma Hounds are the Knights Excelsior. Artwork, we've got Abaddon here. He really needs a new model. And some Black Legion. And then we've just got a little breakdown of the individual forces. Demon Princes, Chaos Lord, Exalted Champions. These are another new unit. They're essentially the Chaos equivalent of Lieutenants. But we'll get more onto them when we get to the data sheets. Going through them. So just quickly jump through there. Because you don't really need to look at these. If there's anything that jumps out, I'll stop. So yeah. Went through these then. Lord of Skulls, amazing model. But apart from the Tonka Trunk. From Berserkers, Khan, Rubric Marines, Plague Marines, Lucius, Noise Marines, etc. And famous characters. The Fallen are included in here, as well as Cypher, which is interesting. And Abaddon, of course, gets a nice double page spread, breaking down his weapons as well. Demons are also in this codex. Just the basic ones then, though. And then we've got a miniature gallery. And this here is the single model, I believe, that is in most need of an update. Abaddon is an extremely old model. I don't know how old specifically. If one of you do know, let me know in the comments below to educate me. But he's been this model for longer than I've been in the hobby. And I've been in the hobby for going on 8 years now. And he really starts to show his age when put up with the newer ones. For example, here we've got Abaddon amongst the Chosen from the Dark Vengeance set. And well, yeah. We've got your nice painted section here. We're just going to jump through here, just briefly showing off the models. We've got Warp Talons, Night Lords, a Heldrake. Just gonna quickly go through here. Word Bearers, Alpha Legion, Berserkers. These are also models that are in dire need for an upgrade, if you ask me. Personally, to the point where when I'm making them, I think I'm going to be kit bashing them with Standard Marines, just because they start to show their age a little bit. Specifically in the faces, the helmets aren't too bad, so maybe it'll be a Forge World helmet job and that'll be it. But more on that in the future. Going through, we got the Slanesh, World Eaters, Crimson Slaughters, Path to Glory. Again, it's just showing off the basic way you can build a force. It's a start collecting box. And then an expansion into a full-sized miniature force. I believe this is a patrol detachment sized. Let's just have a quick look through here. Yeah, it's patrol sized. And then we're on to the Slaves to Darkness. So, similar to the Space Marine one, if you've seen that video, everyone's got a Legion keyword. And this is basically gives you their own... lost my train of thought there. They basically allows you to give you keywords to give buffs to units. Notably here though, it says the Death Guard and Thousand Suns deviate significantly in terms of organizational fighting styles. As such, you can't use these keywords. So basically this is pretty much guaranteeing basically much guaranteeing that their codexes are coming. The Death Guard one has already been announced, whereas the Thousand Suns one is only a matter of time. They also have the Mark of Chaos one, which doesn't actually give them any bonuses, but it allows them to use certain buffs. Now they've got their Army Spy special rule, which is the Death to the False Emperor, which basically on a 6+ to hit, if it was targeting an Imperium unit, immediately make an extra attack against a unit with the same weapon. These can't generate additional hits. So if you can find something that gives you a +1 to hit, this triggers on a 5+, which is amazing, especially for my World Eaters army that I'm going to be building. It just allows you to continue to roll and roll and roll. So we've got then the Demonic Ritual, where it allows you to summon demons. Interestingly enough, you don't need to have Psychers to do this. Any character can, and it says specifically, unless they're marked, you have to summon their own gods. And then we're on to the characters. We've got Abaddon and Fabius Bile. Abaddon is an absolute beast in this edition. Khan of Betrayer, Lucia, Cypher, and the Fallen. Interestingly enough, they've got both the Imperium and the Chaos keywords. You can use them in both forces. You're on Blackheart, a Demon Prince, Chaos Lord's generic, Chaos Lord and Terminator armor, Sorcerer and Sorcerer and Terminator armor, Dark Apostle, Exalted Champion. So the Exalted Champion, let's have a look at this. Exalted Champion is essentially the Primaris Lieutenant, well, the Lieutenant option for this force. They come standard with a bolt pistol, a chainsword, frag grenades and crack grenades. And they may replace their one item with pistols, combat weapon or melee weapons list. And they may replace its chainsword with one item from pistol or melee weapons list. essentially they're the standard Marine choice, with being more flexible as they don't have Primaris Marines yet. So notably, however, it can only be done, the buff, you can reroll fail wounds in the fight phase, so it's not all to wound rolls of 1 like the Lieutenant, but because it can only be done in close combat, instead it allows you to reroll all failed, which is great. As well, and they also have the For the Dark Gods, and they allows you to reroll failed hit rolls if this model of the target is an enemy character. So you gain a buff for friendly legion in close combat for wound, and against characters the Exalted Champion can get rerolls to hit as well. Chaos Space Marines, your standard bulk, you've got Chaos Cultists, you've got Bloodletters, essentially allowing you to run demons as your core troops. We've got Khornates, Berserkers next. Interesting enough, the Khorn, because of the wording of the chainsword, it essentially allows you to take a chainsword and a chain axe, and arguably this is the better use of the points, just because they're so efficient in close combat, being as they can fight twice in a fight phase. Basically, they can dish out all their attacks with their chain axe at strength 6, AP -1, and then make an additional attack at strength 5, just because it allows you to make an additional attack. You don't need to put all of your attacks with them or dedicate one with the chainsword, it just gives you a bonus. Rubric Marines are a big section on their own, as are Plague Marines. Plague Marines, hell, have their own page. Noise Marines, Chosen, Mutilators, Chaos Terminus, Possessed. Possessed did get a huge buff in the fact that they are now 2 wounds, and this will immediately make them stop them from being absolutely useless to these aren't half bad anymore. However, they've lost their I was reading the Writhing Tentacles rule. They've lost their mutation ability so this can be seen as a buff or a loss depending on your thoughts, but essentially it allows them to be more reliable. Really, the only difference is now you get random attacks. Chaos Bikers, Hellbrutes. Basically, most of this stuff is unchanged from the Chaos Index. Just with some added stuff. I've tried to point out where I know. And then the Cornlord of Skulls, funnily enough, smaller section than the Plague Marines, but he's very fixed in his loadout. We've got a breakdown of the entire profiles of all the weapons. There's a couple of pages of that, as well as what each of the icons do. So the icon of Wrath allows you to reroll failed charge rolls. You will never take this. You will never not take this in the Khorne Force. Roll a d6 for each unit from your army with an icon of flame. On a roll of 6, inflict 1 mortal wound on the closest enemy unit within 12 of the model carrying the icon of flame. Enemy units that are within 6 inches of any unit, if you're doing the Icon of Despair, must subtract 1 from their leadership. And the Icon of Excess for the Slanesh unit, a Death of the False Emperor ability takes effect on any hit rolls of 5+. So if you can get something that gives you a +1 to hit, you're doing it on a 4+. That's insane. So then we've got Lost and the Damned, and the big one being here, the Despoilers of the Galaxy, which basically is objective secured, so it seems like every force is going to be getting that. Got each of the Legion traits. Some are better than others. I personally feel like the Renegades one should be the World Eaters one, being able to advance and charge. But I can see the World Eaters one being good as well, essentially giving you the old charge bonus. And being as nothing gets that anymore, that's a lot bigger than you probably realise. Some of them are copy and pastes from the Space Marine Codex as well, which is a little bit of a shame. For example, the Alpha Legion one, if the Alpha Legion forces exist anyway, is exactly the same as the Raven Guard one. And the Iron Warriors one is more or less identical to the Imperial Fists one. Stratagems, this is the new Chaos Boon table. And it's not as bad anymore, but that's why you need to pay for it now using command points. We've got the Dark Hereticus Discipline with only 1 power for each of the gods now, as opposed to having dedicated trees. And we've got the Artifacts of Chaos. As you can see, there's a lot more because they had to give gods specific ones. None of them are bad from my understanding and what I've seen. Some of them are better than others. The Murder Sword, for example, is extremely good for dealing with Blood Angel, Librarian, Dreadnought. Name that as the character, put it on a Corn Lord. If you're running a purely World Eaters force, you can just use the Corn Lord, charge into combat, and that will put a huge amount of wounds in one turn because every hit is an automatic wound. Then we got the Warlord traits, as notably the Renegade chapters don't have a specific Warlord trait. Instead, they can just have any of them, whereas the Legion ones have the option of taking any of these. Talking about World Eaters again, the Slaughterborn one adds 1 to your Warlord's attack and strength characteristic each time he slays an enemy character, monster, or Titanic model. This has potential to be amazing, specifically against Tyranid Nidzilla forces. But it's probably better to just use the Exalted Champion one. Again, Unholy Fortitude here is a repeat of the base Codex one. So the base rulebook one, but it also gives you an additional wound as well as ignoring any wounds on a 6 additionally. There's also a note saying any named characters from Legions have to take their Legion specific one. And then we're just onto the point values, and that will wrap up the initial review. It became kind of in-depth eventually though. My thoughts on this book: it's cheaper than the Space Marine one when it came out, but it didn't come with a launch window. I feel like it could have used one. A resculpted Abaddon surprise would have been nice. But oh well, what can be done about it, eh? Perhaps just one day down the line. It's cheaper, but it's also got a lot less in it. Notably, it also dropped a few of the profiles from the index. Specifically, the one that comes to mind is the Chaos Lord on bikes. I've also noticed in there that it's completely lacking all the Nurgle and Thousand Sun ones. So on top of the rule saying you can't take them as their Legion rule, they're not in there anyway other than the cult troops for when you're doing mixed forces. And this 100% confirms the codices are on the way and not meant to be long. I do firmly believe the other Legion, the Emperor's Children and World Eaters, because they're the big four obviously, are going to be getting their own codex, but because of these rulings and their characters still in there, I think it's further away than what people think. My bet, if I was to be a betting man, would be they get all the codices updated, then they'll start bringing out the new ones. It's just by the time, and hopefully we'll see World Eaters, Terminators on the table soon. But it's cheaper, it's not a bad book by any stretch, it's got a nice bit of history, it's a hardback book, which is always nice. I'm extremely happy with the book, it's allowing me to do exactly what I want. So that has been That Welsh Nerd. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to be notified of more content. And I will see you in the next one.